Hi creative friends, this is Solera and thank you so much for being here. So I'm going to dive right back into my 100 day project, which is my mixed media portraits. And this over here is some really high quality watercolor paper. I actually think it's Arches. And I found a stash, I mean a huge stash of the most amazing watercolor papers when I cleaned up my studio. So I'm gonna start using them for different projects, but I think my 100 day project is a great way to use up some of these pieces. So all I did is I just spilled some ink onto the paper and I allowed it to completely dry. And this ink is calligraphy ink. It's it's just called dark blue, and just use what you have. And I just like went in and randomly just spilled it. I didn't like think, oh, this is gonna be the hair and this is gonna be this and that. No, I didn't do any of that. And I might turn it around to try to see how I want to place my face. But before I do that, I just wanted to point out a few things. The first thing is, when I first started this 100 day project, I had a few people saying, I should, they would like me to lead the project. And I was like, no, I don't think I can commit to that because, blah, blah, blah. But I don't work like that. Like, I know that I can't work like every single day on the same thing. I need to leave things alone for a few days or a few weeks or whatever it is. And there's a very important reason why. Now, if this feels overwhelming to you, I don't think you should do it. And I think that's just a good rule of thumb for anything. Like, what I do is if something feels overwhelming, it's like a no. And that could be anything in life. Like if it just feels like, oh my God, it's a no. But if I feel curious about something, if there's a sense of spontaneity and interest, then to me, that's a sign that I should proceed, which doesn't mean at some point I'm not going to feel overwhelmed. And then when I start feeling that way, then I'll stop it. But this is the way I work. So in between my last 100 day portrait situation, I worked on a few different things. One of them was this spread in Painting the Feminine, and I really love the way this lady turned out with the collage and the tea bags, and I left all of that just, raw. I didn't cover it, and I just am smitten by the way this turned out. I think it conveys so much. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is that I also was working on this still life series, and on the face of it, it might seem like, okay, well, this is a still life and that's a portrait and they have nothing to do with each other, but that's really not true. The way I look at things is that every single thing that I work on is going to help every other thing, because just like my painting, everything works in tandem, nothing is isolated, everything is relational to everything else on the page. I look at my creativity in the same way. So everything that I do is going to fuel everything else, and everything works together. So if I spend a week, exploring, just drawing with my pencil, or if I spend a couple of days working in, whatever with collage or making my mini collages or whatever it might be, everything works with everything else. And that's the way I approach my creativity. So when I work on a still life, besides the fact that I really enjoy it, it strengthens all of my other art. So when I come back to this, you can bet that whatever I learned here, I am going to be able to apply it in my portrait. Now, I do want to, since I am talking about the still life, I do want to point something out. So you might remember when I said, excuse me, that, the push and pull, when you want to push something into the background, you usually go for neutrals or cool colors and darker values. And when you want to pull something forward, you go for, generally speaking, lighter values and, your warm colors. So that is true, but I just want to point something out here. So in this particular spread, this jar is sitting back in the painting, so it's a push, but I am not using a dark value. I am using a light value. Now there is some of this blue over here, you know, but basically this is a light value. So now the question is, why, you know, why did I not use a dark value? So let me explain. So the first thing is, by me drawing, when I put my initial drawing down, I drew the apple, like the apple is overlapping this jar. So, you know, like the apple you can see in full, and the jar is like, I'm gonna bring it up closer. See, the jar is, you know, part of it is obscured because the apple is in front of it. So that right there is perspective, and it's going to tell whoever's looking at the piece, myself included, it's going to give me a clue like, oh, well, this jar is behind the apple. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I did not put any details on here. Like, I really did not. I did a haphazard wash and I used some of the blue, but other than that, like, I don't know if the camera can pick up on this, but you can even see the background yellow that I spilled on the page. But I put so much detail on the apple. Plus, the apple has a really bright color. It's got, you know, all this luminosity. It's got the different values. It's like eye-catching. It's like, whoa, right there. So my point is, you don't always have to use every single one of these principles. If you just use one or two of them, it's enough. It's enough of a clue to say that, oh, well, the apple is in front of the jar. Now, if it was unclear, if the apple was sitting on the same plane, then yeah, then I might want to use all of my techniques. But I just want to point it out that you don't have to use all of these techniques. Like, we have all these techniques, you know, the push and pull, the perspective, the details, you know, this, that, and the other. So you don't have to use all of them. You can just employ one or two of them. Now, you can use all of them. There's nothing wrong with that. But I just wanted to point that out. So the rule still holds true. When you push things into the background, you're going to use your you know, your darker values and your neutrals and your cool colors. And, you know, when you pull something, you're going to use your lighter values and your warmer colors. That rule still holds true. You just don't have to employ all of those techniques when you're painting. So I'm just going to leave that alone. I think I've talked about that enough. But I just also wanted to show you this. I'm sorry, you guys, I will get to my 100-day project, but this relates to this. So this is like, it's not done, but I just want to show you how I am approaching my portraits now, you know, like in a little bit of a different way, because I'm thinking of the features on the face. I'm thinking of them as shapes. And so if you can see the eyes, like, you know, those do not look like eyes. Do you see? But I'm starting off with the shapes and the values, and then the details will come later. And I really love working like this. And this is what I mean when I work in my still lifes. It's easier for me to go, oh, I know that this is a sphere and this is a half a sphere, blah, blah, blah. So I'm working on shapes rather than the apple and the bowl and this jar over here and whatever else is going on. I'm looking at them as shapes, and then I'm building up my values, etc., etc. So now, once I've done this and I go to work on this, when I go to work on this, it just makes it easier for me to kind of go, oh, okay, you know, because I've already done it on my still life. So now I'm just doing it again. So it's the, you know, the repetition and the doing. Which is how we kind of like learn, most of us anyways. So what I'm going to do here, and I'm sorry for that long-winded kind of thing, but I think they are important to point out, you know. So anyways, what I'm going to do, well, first of all, I'm going to see like, where do I want to place my face? I don't know if I want to place my face like so. I mean, I might. I don't know. I mean, I do want to use this blue for the hair. So I'm thinking that I can either go like so. I might do that actually. I'm wondering here, should I do that? You know what? I think I'm gonna go like, I think I'm just gonna kind of go like this, okay? And what I decided to do with this is I am going to, I have this kind of like idea in my mind. I don't know how it's gonna actually work in once I start painting it, but I have this idea like I'm gonna leave parts of the page like as is with the blue ink that I put down, and then I'm gonna cover up parts of it with like collage and tea bags and just different things, and I'm just gonna see the juxtaposition of the what I initially laid down and then the layers. So I don't know if it's gonna work out that way, but I'm gonna try anyways. So what I'm gonna do is I'm trying to see how I can place my face, and I think okay, I want the eye, one of the eyes to go there, and and okay. So this watercolor paper, you guys, is just amazing. It's just, I mean, it's difficult to explain how good quality paper just really changes so much. Like the still life I was doing, it's I think it's Strathmore mixed media paper, but it's I don't think it's meant for, like, it says mixed media, but that particular journal, I don't think it's meant for a lot of layers, honestly. But this paper is like so amazing, and I know I can put a ton of layers on here. So what I'm gonna do is it's gonna be my nose, I think. Okay, you guys, so what I'm gonna do is, this is gonna be a little bit tricky until I figure out, you know, how I'm going to do this. But so what I said is I want to use the blue, like I don't want to cover up a lot of this blue. I'm just kind of seeing, like, you know, just experimenting. So I'm gonna try to use the blue that's already on the page without covering it up. Like normally I will cover it up. You know, this is gonna be a bit tricky here. Let me see. Okay. So you guys, this is where, like, you know, when you have an idea in your head and then when you go to execute that idea, it's like, oh, okay, well, I didn't think about this and this and this, but I'm gonna see here if I can stick to my original idea here. And so what I want to do is I do want to add tea bags and collage to the whites of the paper. So let me draw in the hair over here. So that's one of the great things about doing this 100-day project is I'm just, you know, experimenting, and there's no pressure to, oh, this has to look this way and blah, blah, blah. You know, because you're doing the 100-day project, you have the opportunity to do things in different ways. And you can learn so much from it. Well, that's what I'm discovering. I'm sure there's other things that I'm learning as well, but that's my main takeaway so far. So I'm gonna layer like the tea bags. I'm really loving that piece of collage over there. I don't know if I want to cover it up with my tea bags, but let's see. Okay, and then I want to put like more collage here on the, say, on the neck here. And I really love those like ink splashes there, you guys, like the way it's so expressive, like, and all I was doing was just taking my brush and just like flicking the ink on there, and then I just allowed it to dry naturally. I really love that. So, okay, it's looking really interesting. I mean, I'm really kind of liking the direction that it's going in. And what I'm hoping is to keep some of this like organic kind of like the way the ink spilled, and also the juxtaposition of the cool blues with this really rich warm sienna here. Okay. Okay, you guys, I think I'm just going to allow this to completely dry here, and then I will come back and work on it some more. So if you've watched all the way to the end, thank you so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.